You're out on the water trying to decide whether to drop a line on a school of bass hiding along a dock, or to chase a lone pike that's cruising a few yards off the bow. What you really need is a piece of gear that's reliable, doesn't become a headache to set up, and actually pays for itself the moment you start seeing fish you'd otherwise miss. That's the sweet spot most anglers are looking for, and it's why the side imaging sonar market can feel like a minefield of flashy specs and vague promises. Before you spend a chunk of cash on a SideV unit, you want to be sure it'll work with the fish finder you already have, that it'll hold up in salty spray, and that the extra detail you get on the screen translates into real catches, not just a prettier display. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I've spent the last few weeks putting the Garmin 1243xsv GPSMAP 1243xsv SideV through its paces on a mid-sized bass boat, a 12-foot kayak, and even a small inflatable that I use for weekend trips. My goal wasn't just to see how it looks on paper, but to see if the hype holds up when you're actually trying to locate fish, avoid underwater hazards, and keep your battery from draining before you get back to shore. First off, the SideV is designed exclusively for Garmin's 1243xsv series, which means you don't have to wrestle with mounting brackets that never quite line up or fight a mismatched connector. The unit snaps onto the transom just like a regular down-looking transducer, but the housing is angled so it shoots a beam out to the side as well as straight ahead. That geometry is where the practical value starts to show. When I was trolling along a weed-choked shoreline, the side view gave me a clear slice of the water column that would normally be hidden behind the boat's blind spot. I could actually see the top of a submerged fallen tree and a line of bass gathering just a couple of meters away. The ultra-high-definition scanning sonar crammed that slice into a crisp image, letting me differentiate a school of baitfish from the surrounding debris in real time. What makes that scanning quality possible isn't just the raw sensor. It's the combination of Panoptix sonar support and the improved display optics that Garmin has baked into the 1243xsv platform. Panoptix lets the unit blend the side view with the forward-looking view, so you get a seamless picture of what's happening around the boat without having to switch screens. In practice, that means you can keep an eye on a fish that's drifting from the side into your main beam, and adjust your lure or speed without missing a beat. The preloaded mapping also adds context. As the side image populates, the map underneath updates with depth contours and known structure, so you instantly know whether you're looking at a steep drop-off, a sandbar, or a rocky ledge. Now, no product is without its trade-offs, and the SideV is no exception. The biggest practical limitation I ran into is the effective range. Because the side beam spreads out to cover a wide area, the depth penetration tops out at about 30 feet in clear water and drops to roughly 1,520 feet in murkier conditions. If you're fishing deepwater lakes or offshore spots where you need to see fish at 80 or 100 feet, the side view won't replace a dedicated down-looking deep search sonar. It's great for nearshore work, dock fishing, and structure hunting, but it isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. Power draw is another consideration. The SideV draws a modest amount more than a standard transducer, and on my 12-volt boat, that's not a deal breaker. But on a small kayak with a limited battery pack, it can shave off a few hours of run time if you leave it on continuously. The workaround I've found is to use the unit's auto-off setting when I'm not actively scanning, which the 1243xsv handles gracefully. If you're planning extended days on a low-capacity power source, you'll want to factor that into your setup. Installation was surprisingly painless. The mounting hardware comes with a universal bracket that bolts to most transom setups, and the cable connects directly to the dedicated SideV port on the 1243xsv. There's no need for an extra adapter or a firmware update beyond the standard unit update that Garmin pushes via the app. I had the whole thing on the boat and ready to cast in under 10 minutes, which is a big win if you're not a DA enthusiast and you want to avoid a half day in the garage. So, who should actually consider adding the SideV to their rig? If you're already a Garmin 1243xsv owner, and you fish in environments where structure, weed beds, or shallow reefs dominate the action, the SideV can turn those blind spots into productive zones. Anglers who spend a lot of time moving along shorelines, fishing under bridges, or hunting for bass around submerged logs will find the SideV instantly useful. It also makes